oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jah hear my plea.
Give me a rest, no start mess. Every time me rise, I don't want you they praise. Give me a rest, no start mess. And my time to smile, and my time.
Alright, continuing where we left off in chapter 3, rights of citizenship. This is point 16, protection of the right to due process. 1. Whenever a person is charged with any criminal offense, he shall, unless the charge is withdrawn, be afforded a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court established by law. 2nd, the determination of a person's civil rights and obligations or of any legal proceedings which may result in an adverse to the defendant's interest, he shall be entitled to a fair hearing within a reasonable time by independent and impartial court authority established by law. All proceedings of every court and proceedings related to obligation before the court or authority, including announcement of decision of the court authority, shall be held in public. Nothing in the subsection 3 shall prevent any court or authority, such as is mentioned in the subsection, excluding from the proceedings persons other than the party thereto and their legal representatives, A, and interlocutory proceedings, B, in appeal proceedings under any law relating to income tax, or to such an extent as the court or other authority may consider necessary or expedient in circumstances where publicity would prejudice the interests of justice. So if the public outcome would influence it, they might have to have it privately then. The court may decide to do so, as the case may be. The authority may be empowered or required by law to do so. The interests of the defense, public safety, public order, public morality, the welfare of a person under the age of 18, or protection of private lives of persons concerned in the proceedings. 5. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proven guilty or has pled guilty. 6. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall A, be informed as soon as reasonably practicable, in a language which he understands, of the nature of the offense charge. B, have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of his defense. C, be entitled to defend himself in person or through legal representation of his own choosing, or if he has not sufficient means to pay for legal representation, to be given such assistance as is required in the interest of justice. D, be entitled to examine or have examined his trial witness against him, and to obtain attendance and examination of his witness on his behalf under the same conditions as the witness against him. E, have the assistance of an interpreter, free of course if he cannot understand what language is spoken in court. F, not to be compelled to testify against himself or make any statement amounting to a confession or admission of guilt, and except for his own consent, not be tried in his absence unless he conducts himself in the court to render the continuance of the proceedings in his presence impracticable, and the court has to order him to be removed and trial proceedings in his absence, or abundance or abscons during the trial. 7. An abused person who is tried for a crime or offense, or any person authorized by him in that behalf, shall be entitled, if he so requires, and subject to payment of such reasonable fees as may be prescribed by law, be given for his own use within a reasonable time after judgment. A copy of that record of the proceedings made on his behalf by the court. 8. Any person convicted of a crime shall have the right to have his conviction sentence reviewed by a court jurisdiction which is superior to the court in which he is sentenced. Interesting. No person who shows that he or she has been tried by any competent court for a criminal offense, either convicted or acquitted, shall be again tried for that offense or for any other criminal offense of which could have been convicted at that trial. offensive upon order of a superior court in the course of appeal proceedings relating to that conviction or acquittal. No person shall be tried for a criminal offense if he shows that he had been pardoned for that offense, provided that nothing in the law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention to this subsection by reason that it is authorized by a court, by any court, to try a member of a defense force or a criminal offense withstanding any trial and conviction or acquittal of that member under service law. But any court so trying such a member and convicting him shall sentence him to any punishment, take into account that any punishment awarded to him under the service is under service of law. 10. No person shall be held guilty of a criminal offense in relation to an infringement of a civil nature which is more severe than the maximum penalty which might have been imposed for that offense in respect that the infringement at the time when the offense committed or the infringement occurred. 12. Final point. If at the time of the sentence a person who is convicted of a crime, of a criminal offense, of a criminal offense, the penalty prescribed by law for that offense is less severe than the penalty that might have been imposed at the time which the offense was committed, less severe penalty shall be imposed. Okay, so if you commit a crime in January and the law updates, they increase the charge in February, you should be charged for the January offense because you committed it in January and not the February increase. So the fine, if fine over 100,000, you should not pay the 200,000 increase if the law changed after you committed the crime, right? So the next point on the right of citizenship, it says 17, protection of freedom of religion. Every person shall have the right to freedom of religion, including the freedom to change his religion and the right to, either alone or in a community with others, both in public and private, to manifest and propagate his religion in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. The constitution of religious body or denomination shall not be altered except with the consent of the governing authority of that body or denomination. 3. Every religious body or denomination shall have the right to provide religious instruction for persons of that body or denomination in course of any education provided by that body or denomination, whether or not the body or denomination is in receipt of any government subsidy, grant, or other form of financial assistance designated to meet in whole or in part the costs of such course of education. 4. No person attending any place of education except with his own consent, or if he's a minor, the consent of a parent or guardian, shall be required to receive religious instruction or take part in or attend any religious ceremony or observance which relates to a religious body or denomination other than his own. So that covers the freedom of religion aspect. Now we're going on to 18, which talks about the status of marriage. This is 1. Nothing contained in or done under any law insofar as it restricts a marriage or any relationship in respect to which any right and obligation similar to those pertaining to marriage are conferred upon a person as if they were husband and wife. One man and one woman shall be regarded as being inconsistent with contravention and provisions of this chapter. 2. No form of marriage other than referred to in subsection 1, other than the voluntary union of one man and one woman, shall be contracted legally recognized in Jamaica. So the only thing that can be defined as marriage in Jamaica is one adult male, one adult female. Anything else is not legally considered a marriage, basically. So that's the marital status. 19. That's the next point. So moving from marriage, this is application of redress. If any person alleges that any of the provisions in this chapter has been or is likely to be contravened in relation to him, then without prejudice to any other section with respect to the same time, matter which is lawfully unavailable, the person may apply to the Supreme Court for redress, and that is the highest court within this land. 2. Any person authorized by law or with the leave of court or public civil organization may initiate an application to the Supreme Court on behalf of persons who are entitled to apply under Section 1 for a declaration that any legislative or executive act contravenes the provision of this chapter. 3. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction to hear and determine any application made by any person in pursuance of subsection 1 of this section, and may make such orders, issue such and give such direction as it may consider appropriate for the purposes of enforcing or securing enforcement of any provisions of this chapter, to protection of which the person concerned is entitled. 4. Where any application is made for redress under this chapter, the Supreme Court may decline to exercise its powers and may remit the matter to the appropriate court, tribunal, or authority if it's satisfied that adequate means of redress for contravention alleged or available to the person concerned under any law. So they may refer it to another court that is specifically that case, or a lower court, rather than take it up on themselves to overrule the decision. 6. Parliament may make provisions or authorize the making of provisions with respect to the practice and procedure of any court for the purposes of this section, and may confer upon that court such powers, or may authorize the conferment thereof on such powers. In addition, those conferred by this section may appear to be necessary or desirable for those purposes of enabling that court more effectively to exercise the jurisdiction conferred upon it by this section. And chapter 20 is basically the interpretation of it. So it says in this chapter, contravention, that means in relation to any requirement, including failure to comply with that requirement, cognizant expression shall be made. Court. Any court of law in Jamaica other than constituted on the service of law. Period of public mentions, it means any period during which Jamaica is engaged in war, or there is a police force proclamation by Governor General declare a state of emergency. Service law means any law related to the discipline of defense force or police officer. And it's these in proclamation. So this is just interpreting the terms of this chapter, and this basically ends chapter 3. Those are the rights, and the Bill of Rights basically the rights of the citizens of Jamaica. So until next time, see you.
Excellence! No bad influence! Youngsters, stop your nonsense! Whether gangster or a prankster or a mobster or a monster, me say crime is not the answer. Black power you fi fight for. Gangster or a prankster or a mobster or a monster, me say crime is not the answer. Black power you fi fight for. People be honest, gangster fi vanish, guns them will vanish, crime will diminish, situation chronic. Don't be astonished, robbing and ripping leave the people in a panic, protecting the oppressors. That is so ironic, acting demonic, too satanic, not thinking like a man, acting automatic. You're planning the plan, so don't be idiotic. Gangster or a prankster or a mobster or a monster, me say crime is not the answer. Black power you fi fight for. Gangster or a prankster or a mobster or a monster, me say crime is not the